Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to this installment of the Memorial Cup recap brought to you by WeTV. My name is Dominic Papa, and of course you recognize that mug right there. Eric Wellwood joins us again as our guest analyst on today's show. Thanks for coming back in with us, Welly. And we saw another game last night, and wasn't the prettiest of games for sure. The competition level is a little bit questionable right now, but St. John's lives to play another day. 7-0, they defeat Seattle, and I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, Seattle really didn't have much gas in the tank after winning the Western Hockey League championship.
Well, it certainly seemed that way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing some stiff competition in Windsor, Erie, and obviously St. John's, who I don't think we've seen the best of just yet. But when you go through that high of winning your league, especially when you're not the favorite, I think when you come to a tournament like this, as much as they say that they felt like they belonged, perhaps they were looking around and were waiting around too much.
Not to take away from Seattle, but when you played in the Cups in Rimouski and Brandon, then when you went with Oshawa, there were players that you heard a lot of buzz about, and maybe because it was a quick turnaround for Seattle, but we just don't hear a lot of buzz about their team. I know they have the Barzell kid there. It's a fine hockey player, but not a lot of buzz with this team.
It seemed that way, especially if you look past in the history of this tournament. There's some very big names. And before we got on here, we were talking about the Kelowna team that we faced back in 2009, where they had Jamie Benn, Tyson Berry, and the Myers kid defenseman on their team, and they had some very big names that were coming into this tournament with a lot of hype. When you look at that Seattle team, it didn't seem, other than the Barzell kid, that they had a lot of gas around their whole team. Obviously, they had some good two top lines. Didn't produce, I don't think, the way they wanted to, only scoring 3 goals in the tournament. But in saying that, it didn't seem like they had an overall overwhelming team.
Let's take a look at some of the action from last night. Again, a 7-0 victory for St. John. Again, the first period or so was pretty competitive, I thought. It was 1-0 for the longest time. Then all of a sudden the floodgates opened, and maybe that's the goal right there that got the scoring going. This is the young player, Valeno, who looked very good last night, actually. He's a 16-year-old player. He came into the league with special status, much like Aaron Ekblad of our area here, Eric. But it just seemed after that the floodgates opened, so to speak, as they say, and Seattle just couldn't generate much. They just couldn't stop much. The team just kind of fell apart. There's another one, stick side. Looks like they got to the young goaltender again as well, Stankowski.
Well, I think when you look at this kid, he's 16 years old, playing in a tournament that is predominantly for 19-year-old players, and it was a big task for a kid like him to step into this spot that he's been put into, and he did a great job getting his team to the spot that they got to in the finals. Scoring
summary, again, no scoring in the first period, and that's what we thought maybe we had a game on our hands, but boy, you look at that second period, 6 goals by St. John, just manhandled them in that second period, and the third period added another one. Valeno again got his second in the third period. He had a good game last night, the young player did. Shots on goal, 31-28. Power play, not a lot of power plays that night. Seattle was 0 for 2, St. John 0 for 3. The 3 stars, Callum Booth, the goaltender of St. John, Joe Valeno, and Bukandi Imama. Gotta love that name, eh?
Yeah.
Bukandi Imama. Scrappy kind of player for the St. John squad. But the stats tell the story there. And again, of course, St. John now gets to live another day. And the Seattle Thunderbirds, their season has come to an end. Our Bill Kelso was there, of course, working hard, and he has some post-game reaction.
Thanks, Dom. Last night's game was billed as a game of survival. Both teams, Seattle and St. John, entered this game with an 0-2 record. The winner of the game finds its way to the semifinal game on Friday. The St. John Sea Dogs are that team. They win it 7-0.
I don't know there's any coach who is ever fully satisfied. Like Jacques Lemaire says, the coach is always in search of the perfect game. So we played better than we did the first 2 games. We still have a lot of room for improvement, but it was nice to see some pucks go in. We got some bounces there. At one point the shots were even and we were up 5 or 6-0. So it wasn't like it was a landslide of shots. We just had some timely scoring, and got some pucks to the net. So, but we started to get a little bit more confidence, and we were trying so hard the first 2 games, and we got behind early both games and kind of hung our heads. So it was good for us to get a win under our belt and get a little bit of confidence moving forward.
Tournament.
Well, I think they can, as people, young men, they can reflect on both. Getting kicked in the butt is part of life, and enjoying the success before is part of life. And they've had a roller coaster, and it's part of it. But I do want them to, again, understand the feeling they have right now, but also, as the night goes on and the next day or two, reflect more on the success they've had this year. I think, as an organization from management, scouts down, and the players doing the job on the ice, they've set a new bar. They've set a new standard. The year before it was a standard to get to the finals. This year it was to get to here. And, the next time a team gets here, there will be a different standard. And, so they should be proud of that. But it's tough right now.
You sit around the dressing room, you look at all your buddies, and I've been here with some of them for 4 years now, and just kind of, you're just kind of getting flashbacks to some of the good times, some of the bad times you just laugh at. But no, it's just kind of all coming full circle. Just get a lot of memories when I was 16, being a rookie and getting picked on and stuff those are some of the best times I've ever had. So, yeah, it's just, last 4 years are just kind of swinging in my brain right now.
And you and that group, it's obviously sad right now. But I think we did a lot of good things for ourselves this year, and I think we brought, that next bar for the next group of guys. I mean, last year we lost it, and this year we climbed that bar and we reached the next step. And so I think for next year, the next goal is come back here and do better than we did.
So half the scene is set. We know that the St. John's Sea Dogs will be playing Friday in the semifinal game. Their opponent, well, that would be decided tonight after the Windsor Spitfires and the Erie Otters collide here at the WFCU Center. The loser of this game will play Friday in the semifinal game. With the Memorial Cup recap, this is Bill Kelso for WeTV.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Hold on there. You're swaying on us, buddy. Good job as always, Bill. Gotta love the Kelso, right?
He's a great guy.
Boy, the emotion, the one player, Kolsar there. It's tough. That's a tough way to end your season, isn't it?
Definitely. I think especially when you do go through the high of winning a championship in the WHL, and then you come to this tournament having the dreams of having a chance to win the Memorial Cup and losing in the round robin, going 0-3. I'm sure that's got to be disappointing for that team.
It's a tough pill to swallow, no question about it. We're going to take a look at some of the numbers from the tournament up to this point. Again, we're into day 5 here of the competition, and to no one's surprise, you look at the points leaders. It's all Erie and Windsor. Well, mostly Erie, actually. 80% of it's Erie. So they've been putting the goals in bunches. Goaltending, well, Michael DiPietro, and he's going to have to be big tonight, no question about it. So those are the scoring leaders up to this point in the tournament. If you think about it, just to go back to Seattle for just a moment, Eric, if we can. In their 3 games, they allowed 18 goals and only scored 3. With it, I mean, obviously that goes without saying. You're not going to win games like that, but it's kind of shocking that little offense.
Yeah, especially from that team. And again, they have one of the premier offensive players in Barzell, a highly skilled, great playmaking forward. Just didn't seem like things were clicking for them. Seemed like they were overmatched for most of the games that they were in, and they could never get a spark going. And in this tournament, you got to get that spark, and if you don't have it, you better get it the next period.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we saw the scoring leaders, and you saw it was littered with Erie and Windsor players, and that's where we're going to go right now. We're going to take a look at this matchup tonight. This is a huge game on the line tonight. Simply a berth to the Memorial Cup Championship game. So if you need to have any incentive or any type of motivation to get ready for this one, then you shouldn't be playing in this game. This is the Super Bowl of junior hockey, so we're expecting by far the best game of the tournament tonight. Hopefully it will be that way, the most competitive game we're looking for, at least here tonight. Let's take a look at some of the numbers between these two clubs, and again, outstanding seasons. Now, this is during the regular season that these two teams played, and it was Erie winning the regular season 3-1, but all the games except for the one in Windsor, actually, Eric, the first game that they met, Windsor winning 4-1, basically just 1 and 2 goal games. One of them went into a shootout even. So obviously pretty evenly matched. And you have to wonder too, Eric, Windsor played a lot of times without a full roster. We'll see if that factors in tonight, but interesting numbers.
Well, definitely, and I think these teams obviously know each other very well, and you're going to see the tale of two different types of teams, Windsor being big and hit and finish their checks and are fast, where Erie is pure speed and skill. And you're going to see who can overmatch who with whatever weapons that they're using. And I think you're going to see, like you mentioned earlier, that this is going to be the most competitive game of the tournament. Yeah,
and you look at the goals for, maybe, that's the biggest statistic that stands out to me, the differential where Erie, obviously 87 more goals during the regular season, which is quite significant when you think about it. Goals against, just 3 as the differential. Power play, Erie a little bit better there, 5 points better. Actually, that's pretty significant as well when you think about it. Penalty killing, the Spitfires a little bit better. So again, really tight numbers. I don't like to look into numbers. I think the action on the ice speaks for itself. You don't put numbers there, but it kind of gets you thinking where this game could go, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Eric. It's speed against maybe a brawn, we'll say, where the Spitfires like to play a little more physical than what the Erie Otters do. But right now, you look at the game, Eric, and you know this so well because you were one of those speedsters. Speed kills right now.
Well, definitely, and I think Erie's mastered the way that they're supposed to play. If you look at Chris Knobloch as a coach, he's had 4 years in a row where he's got 50 wins with this team in the organization, and that's something to be speaking highly of. There's a lot of turnaround in junior hockey, so to be able to keep that success is outrageous. So it's a testament to him, and it seems like the boys have bought in on how he wants them to play.
Memorial Cup, let's take a look at their Memorial Cup head-to-head as well. As, again, these two teams go into this game with a perfect 2-0 mark. You look at the numbers, again, pretty solid from all around. And really, this is the head-to-head. They defeated Seattle, of course. They defeated St. John's, Erie did, and same as the Spitfires. Now, of course, Erie, the goals for, 16 goals for in their 2 games. The Spitfires with 10. And Erie has surrendered 7. The Spitfires just 3. So really, it comes down to a great offense, maybe against a great defense here tonight.
Well, exactly. Again, I think if you look back at their regular season stats, how you saw that Erie obviously scored a lot more goals than them in the regular season, and their power play was better. But again, if you looked at Windsor's stats, their PK was better and their goals against was better. And I think, like I alluded to earlier, these are the tale of 2 different teams, 2 different styles. They both know each other very well. And again, it's going to be a game where Windsor's got to be able to skate and willing to skate in order to keep up, because if they can do that, then they're going to give themselves the best chance.
Now, these stats that we're looking at are actually from the games in the regular season, the point totals that we're looking at. So just to give you that clarification there, you don't see Dylan Strome's numbers because he spent part of the season away. So that's why you don't see his name on there. Of course, both teams have been preparing. They've had some time off, so they should be rested and fresh. So we're going to check in now. Of course, they had a morning skate, and we had a chance to talk to the Spitfire head coach, Rocky Thompson.
This is a very important game for us tonight. Our guys are prepared and they're ready. They're excited about it. And obviously we're playing an outstanding opponent, an opponent that's been picked all year to be in this position, the Erie Otters. They've done a great job, and we give them all the credit in the world, and there's a ton of respect that way. But we know what we can do, and we're excited about the opportunity here to prove it again tonight. Well, one thing we definitely don't want to do is turn over pucks, and there's been a couple of great examples against Erie in the last couple of games that they played, how dangerous they are off the rush. So definitely we don't want to allow them any odd man situations, and if we can play with the puck and have our possession numbers high, it takes away a big part of their game.
Yeah, Coach Thompson putting it right out there, Eric. Puck possession going to be huge tonight. And boy, the way Erie has controlled the puck in this tournament, quite significant.
Well, definitely, and that's Erie's game. That's why they've had success all year. That's why they're having success in this tournament. And I think Rocky's right. When you look at the Windsor team, they got to get the puck down low and grind them down low and hold on to the puck. They don't got to necessarily try and score off the rush. They got to create some offensive zone time and create or have Erie play the way that they don't want to play, and that's playing defense.
And fair to say that Windsor will try to maybe even wear them down a little bit in this game, Eric?
Well, definitely. If I look back at my past history, as especially being a coach in Oshawa with DJ, we had a similar team in Windsor where we were big guys that we needed to grind down low. And it's not necessarily trying to outscore them. It's just trying to wear their defense down and not let them get up in the rush, not allow their forwards to have the puck with Dylan Strome and DeBrincat and Sorelli and Fogel. So you got to keep those weapons off the score sheet. In order to do that, sometimes it's just play with the puck.
Puck possession, obviously you just mentioned that's the strength of Erie, but for the Spitfires, again, if they're not able to slow the puck possession down, what would be the next best thing for them to be doing?
Well, it's going to be their tracking, and by tracking is their back checking. All 5 guys have to commit to coming back to the house and stopping in the middle of the house. If you look at Erie's game, they're great off the rush. Even if you think it's a 3-on-3, somehow it'll turn into a 4-on-3 for Erie. So everybody's got to come back. They can't be lazy, and they got to be willing to skate tonight.
Coach Chris Knobloch was also in the house this morning, and we were able to catch up with him, get his thoughts about tonight's game.
Are you expecting the most physical game of the tournament for your team?
Yeah, I think that's Windsor plays that. They have 4 lines. They finish checks. They're probably the biggest team here. Yeah, we know that's part of theirs, but we have no problems. The teams that are more aggressive tend to, a lot of things work in their favor, but it also, when you finish your checks more, you're sometimes getting out of position. Sometimes that leads to more odd man rushes, more power plays. So, there's pros and cons of playing a physical game. And, so we're prepared for it.
Right away, Coach Knobloch acknowledging what you're saying, Eric, about Windsor being a physical team. How tough will it be for them if Windsor's able to get that physical element into this game? What would they have to do to make sure that they can still perform up to their capabilities?
Well, you don't want to get away from your game, but they may have to chip it a little bit more, and not necessarily chipping in to dump it and forechecking, more or less chipping it to speed, especially if they're coming through the neutral zone and Windsor's finishing their checks. They're going to need a lot of support of the puck in order to create those little 2-on-1s that they're very good at creating. Again, if Windsor's going to play the style that they're going to play, they got to be willing to skate, and if Erie's willing to match that, it's going to be a great game.
Do you see anywhere in this matchup, Eric, where one team has an edge because of maybe one player, because of what they do?
Well, I think if you look at Erie's roster, just go through the regular season statistics, and obviously throughout this tournament, you can see how Dylan Strome has 8 points in 2 games, DeBrincat has 8 points in 2 games, and during the regular season, if you just look at probably the most elite goal scorer to almost come through the CHL, in the history of the CHL, in DeBrincat, having 3 consecutive years scoring 50 goals and getting 100 points. Nobody in modern day OHL has ever done that. So I think if you look at Erie's high-end weapons, they may have Windsor in that aspect.
Specialty teams, of course, are always a big factor in today's game. Do you see that going anywhere? Do you see that maybe being the difference in this? And obviously, it goes without saying, but we'll say it. You have to stay out of the box no matter what. Obviously, Erie's power play has been very good here at the tournament. They were 5 for 7 the other night. But will that be a factor in this game?
I think it may be the deciding factor.
Okay.
I think you're going to see a very close game throughout the 5-on-5, 60 minutes of play. But I think when it comes to the specialty teams, it's going to be the deciding factor. Windsor obviously had number 1 penalty kill in the OHL this year. Erie had the number 1 power play. So you're going to see 2 Goliath special teams going at it. It's going to be for Windsor, obviously, they're going to have to check DeBrincat and Strome as much as they can. But as well as DiPietro is going to have to be outstanding in front of the net because they got Sorelli and Fogel in front, and those guys are really good at those little small area plays.
Yeah, you're just leading me into my next comment. I love Sorelli, I love Fogel. This guy Fogel just doesn't get enough credit as far as I'm concerned. He just quietly goes about his work, but what an effective performer.
Oh, definitely. And I think people that don't know the OHL haven't seen him around. Last year when he was in Kingston, he was arguably their best player, and he always worked hard. And Paul McFarland did a good job showing him how to compete and what he has to do in order to stand out. And especially amongst the ranks of the hockey world, people see all these little things that are intangibles, all his extra work ethic that perhaps somebody that's just watching for the first time, they're not going to recognize him and see all those little details. But he's definitely one of the reasons why they've won an OHL championship and why they're in the spot they are in this tournament.
On the Spitfire side of it, and we'll get this wrapped up, I look at a guy like Logan Brown, and I think he has to play his best game ever as a junior anyways tonight in order to give Windsor a chance to win this game.
Well, definitely, and I think it should be a personal mission for him that he's better than the Brinkats, than the Stromes, than the Sorellis. I think he's got to elevate his game definitely for Windsor in order for them to have a chance of winning this game. He is their best player when he's on, other than perhaps Sergachev. You can toss those two up, but if Windsor wants a chance at winning this game, he's going to have to be the deciding factor.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that one, Eric. Of course, each show here we've been featuring some of the special people that are part of the CHL or just taking in the Memorial Cup. Last night, we were able to catch up with the commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Mr. Gilles Courteau, and had a good conversation with him. Another very special guest taking in the Memorial Cup as he does every year, the hardworking commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Gilles Courteau. And thanks for doing this with us, Mr. Courteau. And first, your impressions of Windsor here. I don't know if you've been to our city before, but what are your thoughts?
Well, it's a very nice building. I've been here before. First of all, I've been to the old building in Windsor, older building with Cornwall at the Memorial Cup at that time. And I've been here in the new building with the top prospect game, and I've been here too for a couple of regular season games. So very good building, great atmosphere, nice facility for Memorial Cup, Mastercard Memorial Cup tournament.
Yeah, it's a building that was much needed. If you've been to the Windsor Arena, it didn't change over the years. So you saw the best in 1980 when you were there, but it was time.
Yeah, it was time for City of Windsor to get a building like that, because it's a great opportunity for a city to have a major junior franchise, and I think that the Windsor Spitfire deserve that great building because they've been good for the city, for the region, and it's been well done, and I think that the city has no regrets in investing in a new building.
If you can, Mr. Courteau, for our viewers, just tell us a little bit about the year this past year in the Quebec Major League, how it went, and you've got a good champion here in St. John. I'm guessing the league was very competitive this year.
Yeah, we've been very competitive. We had to wait until the last weekend to determine the final ranking and who was to play against who in first round of playoffs, and it's been very interesting. We have a great parity across the league, and I think that the team management of each and every team deserve lots of credit because of the way that they're building their teams, and they're very competitive, and it's at the benefit of our fans that they're coming to our games on a regular basis.
Is the league changing a lot? I know here in Ontario, Mr. Courteau, it's changing. The recruiting's different. You look at television, everything, social media, all of that stuff. Of course, I talked to Mr. Robinson yesterday. He was talking about these issues as well. How about in the Quebec League?
Well, I think that across the CHL, we're facing the same situation. We have to. We have to improve our style of play, make sure that we'll serve well our fans, and that's going to be good for our players too, because when the players comes from the Major AAA league to Major Junior, is more prepared to play at our level, has lots of skills, speed, intensity, emotion. It's a different type of game that what we've seen 10 years ago. Right now, our game is based on speed, fast, skills, and lots of great plays from players, and we have great star players as well. So it's all good what we've seen so much. But I think that we have to give lots of credit to our owners that they buy in with a couple of major rule changes that we've adopted just to make sure that the player safety was one of our number one priority, and we've seen the improvement over the last couple of years.
For yourself, Mr. Courteau, you've been at the helm for a long time now. You've done a great job keeping that Quebec League growing, much like they have in Ontario and also in the Western League. Obviously, the agenda is a little bit different there, I would imagine, but for yourself, the motivation, what keeps you going, and how much have you had to change with the times?
Well, what motivates me is the challenge. You know, it's a challenge on a daily basis. It's no routine. There's always something new happen. But I think that for us to see the league continue to improve, continue to have and keep quality of ownership that we've been able to brought to our league and across the CHL has been something that amazing. What we've done, and you know, goes with quality of coaches, quality of GMs, quality of therapists, trainers at all level. That we have first-class people, and we benefit from it, and our players benefit from it because they're surrounded by quality people to help them to develop on and off the ice.
I have to say the same thing to you, Mr. Courteau, I said to Mr. Robinson and also to Mr. Branch. It starts with leadership, and you're one of those leaders, and that's where it trickles down. So that's why the success. Your experience pays big dividends for this. But with all that said, obviously there's more challenges, and you like the challenge, obviously, but some of the challenges that are there and where maybe the league is going to have to change some.
Yeah, the challenge is there, you're right. You know, we have to find a new clientele. We have to work hard to bring young people at between the age of 15 to 25, fans that are not used to come to a rink and sit down and watch a hockey game for 2.5 hours. We have to do you know, things that will create a buzz and bring them to the rink and enjoy their time in the building. So working on it, you know, we've been able to do two things lately: keep our fan base, develop a new family fan base. Now we have at the point that we have to do something to bring people between the age of 15 to 25.
I think that's a good call for sure. A lot of people may not be aware of this. This is a movie star as well, folks. Mr. Courteau was in the Maurice Richard, The Rocket story, and one of my favorite films, and I just have to ask you about that and some of the people that you met in it, and is there a future in maybe acting for you?
No future about acting. Just so you know, I was a kind of a pinch hitter because the guy that was supposed to play at a New York Rangers coach, you know, has been sick, and you know, I've been asked if I was able to take over and if I had time and all that. It's been a great experience, you know. As I told you before we went on air, you know, I spent 4 days to do the shot, and it was very interesting. I met very interesting people. Sean Avery was part of that movie, and Roy Dupuis, which is a well-known actor across the country, and you know, players, they really took it seriously, and it's been very well done, and it's been very popular, so I'm very happy that I've been part of that movie.
Interesting scene. Coach Courteau actually gave Avery the tap on the back to jump over the board. You would never see that today. Trust me, folks. Good stuff, Mr. Courteau. Appreciate you giving us some time here tonight. Continued success to you, and again, congratulations on all the accomplishments up to this point. Okay?
Thank you. Always nice to meet you.
Always great to see you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Gilles Courteau, the hardworking commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. You ever think about acting, Wally?
No, not so much.
No, you just might get a call one day
Yeah,
like
we'll
that.
see.
You know, this is pretty fun stuff, actually. But yeah, good man, Gilles Courteau, that's for sure. Before we let you go, let's take a look at what's happened so far, and let's take a look at what's coming up. Of course, these are all the results up to this point. The competition level, even that 4-2 score, not indicative of the game. Because Erie totally dominated that game, and I thought Windsor was pretty dominant in their game with St. John's. So those first two scores, not indicative of what really took place on the ice. And then the rest of the games speak for themselves. So the competition level has been somewhat suspect, and we're anticipating that to change in a real hurry tonight, that's for sure. Speaking of tonight, of course, 7 p.m., the drop of the puck out at the Windsor Family Credit Union Center. The winner right to the Memorial Cup Championship game. The loser will take on St. John in the semifinal on Friday evening. The alumni game, which Mr. Wellwood will be participating in. Glad to see that and hear of that, and it's going to be great to see him skate again. Will be on Saturday at 2, and then Sunday, that thing they call the Memorial Cup final, all the marbles. will be on the line that evening. Should be fun next few days here with the Memorial Cup tournament. As we like to do, our guest analyst has brought all of his expertise to us and given us great knowledge and wisdom here. So now we want to know who's going to win this game tonight, Welly, and where are you going with your score?
Well, I'm going to go Windsor.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go 4-2 with an empty net final.
Okay, empty netter. Hometown crowd going to help with that, I bet.
I think they will.
All right. Well, I'll take the bet then, Welly, and I'm going to go Erie. I like your score, though. I think 4-2 Erie. I don't know if it's going to be an empty net goal, though. I just think Erie's got a lot of firepower going on. That speed just kills. So I'm going to go Erie 4-2. Welly's got 4-2 Windsor, and we'll see how it all unfolds. Eric, as always, great to have you in our studio with us. Really appreciate your great knowledge and help with the show here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Don.
All right, and that's this edition of the Memorial Cup recap. We'll be back tomorrow with a very special edition. Of course, there's no game tomorrow night, but we'll still have a lot of good stuff for you on our show tomorrow, so please tune in to that right here on WE TV. Until then, this is Dominic Papa wishing you a great day. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again soon.